Hi, the following video is my list of the best Valorant teams from 2021 that I discussed on my stream a couple weeks ago. Please keep in mind that these are my own opinions and I do not speak on behalf of the gods, although if you look at the comment sections it probably seems like I am. Everyone is entitled to their own opinion, so feel free to share what you think I did right, what you think I did wrong, respectfully. If you like Valorant esports content, consider subscribing. I tackle a mix of topics from tournament recaps to more interesting things like how player imports would integrate into the North American Valorant scene. I'm just getting over COVID, so I'm planning to come back and posting more frequently. Alright, enough shilling, enjoy the video. I have one last section for this live stream, not gonna lie. I made a list of the best teams of the year. Best teams of the year. I'm gonna go through this because I think that the top 10 teams are very, very contentious for Valorant, right? You have a lot of good teams. You have a lot of great teams. But you have no like superpower dominant team. We thought that was going to be Sentinels. It wasn't. We thought that was going to be Gambit. It wasn't. Is it Ascend? Is it? It's so hard to tell. So I decided to sit down and actually think about this, and I thought I'd drop a list from the end of 2021, what I think the top teams are, taking into account not only the most recent tournament champions, but also like what has happened leading up to. So I said for honorable mentions, I said G2, 100 Thieves, and Fnatic. G2 did very well in Berlin, but I think that was more of a penalty of strength in the moment. They beat Sentinels. They beat Sentinels. Okay, great job for the boys, but they kind of got dummied everywhere else. They didn't do very well in the last chance. I'm like, they're good, but they're not the best. I thought I mentioned them at least. 100 Thieves. If 100 Thieves had not lost Steel and Nitro and Seven, 100 Thieves would be one of the best teams. They'd probably be like up there, top 5. I think they would have done really well at this tournament. Because keep in mind, who are the finalists from Champions? Ascend, Gambit. Who did 100 Thieves beat last tournament? Ascend, Gambit. So I'm like, god damn it. Like 100 Thieves would have been so good, especially Hiko looking crisp, Nitro looking so good, Ethan looking one of the best players in the world, Asuna looking like one of the best players in the world, Steel insane IGL. Now he's over at fucking T1. T1's looking really, really good, but we'll see how they do because they've had some struggles in the past. I also mentioned Vivo Kid because I think Vivo Kid is that Giga team from Brazil, but they can't seem to pull it out when they need it the most. They almost beat Ascend. Did a little too much cheating. Kind of tough. Let's go into the top 10. At number 10, I have Cloud9 Blue. Cloud9 Blue, at least the current incarnation of Cloud9 Blue, has only been around for a couple months, and they're one of the only teams to have participated in Tier 2 Valorant North American tournaments, winning them a lot of the time. Their current roster is what? It's so insane. Especially for being around for so long, they have so much more time to like get into it, right? So they have Boom, Leaf, one of the best players in the world, probably going to be one of the best players in the world, like top 5 level in 2022. I'm calling it right now. He is so good. He is top gravy, like some real shit. No, Cloud9 Blue number 10th. The reason I'm putting Cloud9 Blue so low is because they haven't had a lot of time to prove themselves. They've literally been around for 2 tournaments. And I think that like, even though, who'd they beat? They beat Vision Strikers. That's all they beat. And sure, the one on Vision Strikers is great. It's really good. You have to like do more than that to just prove them. I'm so skeptical because they're such a new team. I think there's like such thing as like a new team kind of coming up and just doing well. So they have Leaf, but Leaf is like a very up and down player. You have Zeppa, who came in at the beginning of this year. He was garbage. I'm not gonna lie, he was pretty garbage. But throughout the year, he has gotten better and better and better and better. And now he's playing on the Jet and he's playing really hot. But again, he still has some stinker games. So Leaf's good, but can have some stinker games. Zeppa's good, but can have some stinker games. Then you have also Vanity. Vanity, very good IGL. I think he's one of the best IGLs in North America. But again, can just have some stinkers. Like, he just does really well until he doesn't. Like, he's good on the shotgun. Sometimes he carries games. But other times, holy, he just like goes like -20. I don't know why. I think the range of play, though, is like reducing, definitely. But I think having their other 2 players, Zeta's so good. He's never doing the worst on the team, I think. He's very, very rarely doing the worst, and if they do, usually that means everyone else is popping off. Not bad. If everyone else is doing bad, he's fucking top fragging. Well, I guess that makes a lot of sense, but he's always like outperforming how he should. Him and Mitch are like the 2 anchors of the team, the 2 rocks that really keep the whole squad like at their point, right? Yeah, it really is a dice roll. It's a big dice roll to see how they'll play. And yeah, I think Cloud9 Blue is really good. I put them as number 10 because I think that, sure, they have the peaks, but they've had some real bad valleys throughout the whole year this year, right? They've didn't qualify for, I think, Masters 1. They did shit in Masters 2. They placed 3rd, I think, but after bringing up Vanity, they've like been slowly picking up steam, so I put them as number 10 as a kind of a... They should be in the top 10 somewhere. I think they're a top 10 team. Next, boom. I'm putting X10. And I know you might be like, oh, but Cloud9 Blue would beat X10. I don't know. X10, I think, is unfortunate because X10 lost Patty Fan to the Overwatch League, to fucking Overwatch. We lost one to Overwatch. This is absurd. Overwatch does not deserve our players, man. But I'll get to it. X10 looked really good, and they have been one of the top SEA teams throughout the whole year, right? They were qualified for Masters 2, clean as the only SEA representative. They probably should have qualified for Masters 3. The way the pools worked, it was really weird. They didn't make it in because they had to play 3 games. They won 2 and tied the 3rd, and then didn't make it into the bracket. But they were still like cleaning house. So either way, X10 has been a very good team, and I think that their consistency means that they'll always be like that caliber of team. Unfortunately, losing Patsy Fan, I don't know how they're gonna do. But I think they beat Envy, right? They took a game off Gambit. X10's not a team to fucking sneeze at, right? They've been putting in the work, putting in the twerk to keep doing well. They've dominated their region, only losing to like, who'd they lose to? They lost to Full Sense, and they lost to Sharper Esports. I don't know who that is. But overall, X10's a very good team, and I think that they are in the top 10. Without Patsy, I don't know how X10 will really make it. Yeah, that's why I think they're definitely going to drop off, I think, because Patty really was the lifeblood of that team, I think. He really helped engage the rest. Number 8, Fnatic. Now, this one's kind of hard because Fnatic has had some ups and downs, right? Masters 2, they were looking like the best team from EU with Durka fucking crushing it, but still got 3-0'd by Sentinels. Sure, they beat V1 and they beat Liquid. But then it's like, how good were they at the time, right? You take that, then you go Masters 3, they shat the bed. They didn't even make it into playoffs. Even though it was the exact same roster too. They didn't change anything. They just weren't doing well. And so then they made it into the tournament just because of their second place at Masters 2. And so everyone was being like, oh shit, how are they gonna do? They played a tournament, the Red Bull Homegrounds 2. They placed 7th, I think. They beat anybody of note. They lost to 10 Star, they lost to Giants, they lost to Liquid. They beat Anubis and FunPlus Phoenix. So I'm like, going into this tournament, I did not expect a lot from them. Their wins against Vision Strikers and Cloud9 really gave them like the power for this list, because it showed that they were still a good team in the grand scheme, right? Fnatic practiced a lot. Fnatic did practice a lot. I'm not gonna lie, that was like peak Fnatic. I think Vision Strikers and Cloud9 both weren't playing the best on their day, right? They had some they had some players dropping stinkers, right? Leaf went -12, but when they played at their peak, they still couldn't beat Liquid. They couldn't beat Crew, and I think they made a lot of big mistakes. And so I'm like, they're a great team. Like I said, 8th in the world, that's pretty good. But I don't think they're in that top echelon of teams. I'll get into it, but I think the top echelon of teams are from 1 to 5. 1 to 5 are the top. Number 7, I'm gonna say Vision Strikers. I had a lot of expectations for Vision Strikers going into the year because Vision Strikers was that talked about team. It's like, yo, the Korean Giants. And I'm not gonna lie, I love watching Vision Strikers play so much. They have such a fun play style. Vision Strikers and Crew play very similar styles of Valorant. Specific executes. More like their overarching style of Valorant, I think, is very similar. Vision Strikers has more defensive executes, I think, and they have both. But it's also very, very, very map dependent, and if they're off just a little bit, it really goes to show. But when they know where to look and when they know where to aim, they go crazy. Vision Strikers had some dominant games against some of the best teams in the world. And it's really unfortunate they lost to Cloud9 and Fnatic at this tournament. They haven't had the performance to prove themselves as a top 5, top team. That's why I'm as number 7. But they've proven they can beat the top teams, right? So they beat Ascend. They almost beat Cloud9 Blue. They almost beat Fnatic. They almost beat Gambit. They've had so many close calls while also still beating some of the best teams in the world. They're the most dominant team from Korea, and I think it's not even close. They're number 7 right now, but I really hope to see them in the top 3 next year. I think if they clean up their act in some of these maps, and I don't think the 6-man roster is working, such a good team. Vision Strikers kind of showed how the game might be played in a year. They have the abilities, and they'll probably be the best. Yeah. Vision Strikers is like a future team. Problem of being the best team in like a not the best region. As they go to more lands, I think they're gonna do better and better. And hopefully we'll see them in that like topper echelon. Hopefully we also get more international lands next year, COVID permitting. Omicron, Persei, not looking good right now. But hopefully next year we'll have more international lands where Korea can go and travel. I want to see, dude, I would love to see like a Valorant World Cup so much. The top teams from every country. I think Korea might just be Vision Strikers. Maybe they throw in like Soldem in there or something. But Vision Strikers, they're so good. I want to see them succeed so much. And just going to the next team, number 6, Envy. Number 6 is Envy, because again, Envy is good, and they've had some bang up performances, right? For example, Masters 2. Remember Masters 3. They've always been one of the best teams in North America, but have never. They're the best team to have never won anything. They got real close in champions, or non-champions, in Masters 3, a lot, losing to Gambit. They did beat Sentinels, and they did beat 100 Thieves, but couldn't beat Gambit. They beat Ascend as well. Envy's a great team, but I think they just can't pull it off in the 11th hour, and that is their big mistake. Someone was saying in chat earlier, what can Envy do? And I really don't know. They have Ye, which is really good. They have Marved, who's insanely good. Maybe like a switch with the coach. The coach might be like switching a coach would be good. They need to replace Victor with like a young dude who really, really wants to win. Like imagine like an Asuna or an Asuna level player on that team. You need a consistent fragger, or even like as I said before, I think the top 5 teams are like championship contending teams. Like teams that could win or could have won champions. And I think Envy just doesn't make it, just for the sole reason that they really, if they make 1 or 2 small changes, small tweaks, they could shoot up the list. But as of right now, number 6. Now we're going to the top 5, right? Top 5, pretty contentious, I'm not going to lie. There's going to be some shit you guys are going to see, and you're going to call blasphemy. You're going to want my head on a stake. You got to deal with it. Say number 5 is Crew. Now I know Crew just placed 3rd at this tournament. And they beat Sentinels, they beat Fnatic, and they almost beat Gambit. Crew, I've always been a big fan of Crew ever since last year, just because Crew has been the most dominant like team from the LATAM region for a while. And I'm always keeping tabs on Crew. I was like, fuck, they beat Astrals again? Let's go. Picking up Kesnet was such a smart idea, because Kesnet's so good. I said before, Kesnet is one of those dudes who's just like top gravy, but I don't think he's on another level like Scream, but I think he's really, really good. Crew got lucky. See, that's I'm trying to consider what's Crew's position in the Valorant rank, because we literally have the two dichotomy right here. We have no shot, but also Crew got lucky, but also Team Secret is top 5. Their improvement, they've always been up there. I'm gonna pull up Crew's record. All right, it's not like Crew has never been shit, and even in like the world scene when it was like Masters 2, Masters 3, when it was all dominated by North America and Europe, Crew is still up there. First of all, Crew is one of the only teams to make it to every single Masters and like international LAN. That's one. They've dominated their region. The only team they lose to is Astrals, and even then, lose to Fnatic, beat Sharks, lose to Liquid. Like, okay, that's a progression, right? They lost to the 2 EMEA teams, but what do? They go back, they train, they play, they grind, they win again. Beat Zeta Division, lost to Envy. Beat Vivo Keyed, lost to G2. We have to remember, Crew is one of the only teams that wasn't North America, EMEA, or Europe that made it to bracket. They pipped out Supermassive Blaze. Then they do it again. This time they actually squeak out the victories. Beat Furia, beat Sentinels, beat Liquid, or beat Fnatic. So overall, and almost took it on Gambit. I definitely think there was they were playing at their peak then, and I think some of these teams definitely weren't. But I think that Crew is definitely a team that has made some of the most improvements of over the year. Crew was in playoffs at Masters Berlin. Yep, Crew deserves it. They've been pretty consistent. Yep. You could tell that Crew won rounds on a thread. Yes. But also at the end of the day, it's about who wins it. And I think Crew has proved themselves that they're in that upper echelon. Yes, I do have them over Envy and Vision Strikers. That's more of a recency bias thing. But I think that I think they're good. I think they're gonna keep improving and keep doing better. Because also keep in mind the way they play. I think the way they play is the most important indicator of why they're gonna do well in the future. Because they almost beat these teams not because they would have single players do crazy things. Of course, they did have Kesnet do some crazy things, or Klaus do some crazy things, crazy clutches. But a lot of the time, it was their offensive strategies that would just overwhelm even the most seasoned teams, right? That's why I'm like, Crew is that good, I think. I think the way that Crew plays, if they continue to progress the way they play, for the same reason I think that Vision Strikers will go on to become an incredibly good team, I think Crew will do the same. I will say, everyone is entitled to their own opinion. I think this list is incredibly close, all the top teams, because there's no big defining big team. There's so many good teams. I think that the game is so fresh, right? It's like in season 1 of League of Legends, if you went out and said that Fnatic was the greatest team of all time because they won season 1 of League of Legends, you'd be sadly mistaken. One team is number 1 or one team is number 2 is just kind of like a very provisional thing. If I say that this team will be the greatest team of all time, then like, I better mean it. Number 4, Sentinels. I have Sentinels up here for kind of the opposite reason of Crew. They have not done super well recently, but I think they have the building blocks to get there. I think Sentinels will go on to be one of the best teams. A lot of the times they're winning was because of individual player talents. Dapper, insane. Ten's, one of the best players in the world. Still say that. Shazam, one of the best IGLs. Maybe needs some work though. He still frags out. Zoms is good. I like that someone trash talks in Valorant as well. Six also really good. I think Six is very underrated because he's teammates with Shazam and Tens. They got too much in like too caught up in the fact that they're the best and like no one could beat them. And it's not that they weren't trying, but I think they weren't doing their best to push forward in the meta because like they thought that they were the meta. I personally think that it's gonna start going towards more execute focused than like not specifically execute focused, but more in-depth utility usage than just like the single one-off usages like having Hiko bait, right? Or having just doing a bunch of shit. I think Sentinels was not playing hot this tournament, like at all, but they were still able to compete with some of the best teams. They almost beat Liquid, they almost beat Crew, or I guess they almost lost to both of them is what they just did, right? They need to do some work, but I think they could go on to do some great stuff. Yeah. Top 3, all right? I'm putting Team Liquid, right? I had winning this tournament. I had them or Sentinels. Neither of which did. But Team Liquid was looking so good, especially leading up to the tournament. Their roster's really good, especially with like Link, Navera. Keep in mind, Navera's only been around for like 2 tournaments, right? They keep playing. I think they go on to do even better. They lost to a top-tier Ascend, which, to be fair, they have beaten Ascend before. They beat Ascend like 2 weeks before Champions, so power to them. But I think they have a little bit more work to do to prove themselves going forward. I think next year, they're another team who can win the first Invitational. Again, I think any of those top 5 teams, with the work that Crew's putting in, if Sentinels were to reinvent themselves, if Liquid just keeps doing what they've been doing, they're on the trajectory to fucking winning this. Because they're doing so well. So number 3 is Liquid. Number 2, I have Ascend. I have Ascend at number 2. The winners of Champions is number 2 in 2021. Now, this might not make a lot of sense, but for me, I thought Ascend was playing super duper hot, right? This past tournament. But this is the first time they've done so. They have, up till now, they were the European envy. Going to Masters 2, they shut the bed. They lost to Ninjas Pajamas. They lost to Vitality. They didn't even make it into the playoffs. So it's like, goddamn, feels bad for them. But if they're really this like giga threat, they lost to Supermassive Blaze, they lost to Gambit, they lost to Vision Strikers, they lost to 100 Thieves. They just kept getting like dummied on, time and time again. They lost to Liquid again. They have proven themselves as one of the top teams, and I think winning Champions has definitely lent them some more points in my favor. But I still think that Gambit is the best team in the world 2021. For one reason, and that is because Gambit struggled this tournament. They did not play, aside from their game against a sandwich, which I did think was very good, very close. These guys actually switched back and forth. Ascend have the number on Gambit. Ascend has beaten Gambit a number of occasions. I think just their one-to-one matchup is not as good. But Gambit kept it so close and almost actually won it with that map 4 victory. The players on Gambit have really stepped it up. Same way that the Ascend players have, right? I was talking about Starkso, Zeke, CNED are all looking really good. Bone Cold, he's pretty good. Kill S, they're probably gonna replace him. Even though he's good, I think they're gonna replace him. Gambit has fucking shooters on their team. Nats, Chronicle, Defo, Shados, Redgar. Each of them have like something that is really going good for them. When the weakest player on the team is Redgar, and like maybe Shados, that's a fucking great team. They have such a solid defense. They're one of the only defensive-based teams in the world. Everyone else is very, very offensive-focused. I think their incredible defense is what won them so many of their games. Because even when they're playing like shit, they can just slow it down and reset. And that's what they did against Crew. That's what they did against Ascent. Anytime they played on Breeze, they fucking crushed people. I think they have to work on their bind for sure. Nats' Cypher lockdowns, or Viper lockdowns, are absolutely insane. It's so good. Gambit does have the clutch gene. I think literally it got beaten into them after they lost to 100 Thieves. Oh, that feels so bad when they lost to 100 Thieves. But yeah, they really stepped it up in this last tournament. And I think winning so many games from the behind is like the Mango effect. It's like you have to give them an extra couple points just because they kept it so close so often, and they're putting in the work, they're putting in the twerk. Overall, great team. This is my top 10 Valorant teams of 2021. Let me know what yours are. I think people will have different opinions. A lot of people have different ways of looking at what has happened this past year, like what you take into, not account, but like what you take into weight the most. I think Champions is definitely the most weight, but I also think Berlin has a good component to that, and some of the tournaments in between. Sentinels has proven themselves time and time again. It's only when they've struggled recently.